Hi everyone, so I am doing a recent reads video. Now, I've read all the same author. I was kind of going through like her one series, and because there's another book that's coming out by this author coming out in August, so I wanted to kind of get through some of these books before the other book comes out. So I went and I read the first book I ended up reading that's a part of this series was I read A Haven by Claire Kent. This is Faith and Jackson. Now I'd say this is post-apocalyptic type of romance. I gave it 5 stars, 4 out of 5 chili peppers. Now this one here, you have these characters where they're kind of living on this farm that was made by her family. I'd say they're definitely, I wouldn't say preppers, but they're kind of like within that category where they're kind of preppers, but they're also more into like, they want to have something like sustainability where they can kind of survive on their own without like outside help and things like that. So they created this farm and they ended up taking in like some people that were like a little more troubled and stuff like that. I'd say they're kind of like maybe foster parents to like troubled youth and things like that, teaching people how to farm and how to do different things like that. And I thought that was really cool. That's a really cool aspect to the story. So an asteroid hit Earth, but not like, I wouldn't say like it was a huge like thing. It wiped out like a good chunk of like Europe, and it had a lot of people flocking to like United States and all that stuff. And it ended up creating a lot of natural disasters. So you have like, there was a bunch of earthquakes that happened. There was like volcanoes that erupted, and it created like all this ash into the air. And so it made Earth very uninhabitable, to where a lot of people ended up dying. If they didn't die from the impact of the asteroid, they ended up dying from the ash and the things that created in the air where you're breathing it in, and you end up getting sick and you die. So a lot of people end up dying that way. And then of course, with panic comes people doing some stupid crap, and it ended up creating these groups of like droves where they go into these towns and they basically like, sexual assault and pillage and all this other stuff. So doing like bad things to, worrying about themselves and all that stuff. So you have groups of that. So there's this group, that's one group called the Wolf. They're like the wolf pack, wolf group. They have like wolves tattooed on their bodies and stuff like that. So they basically have to, Jackson and Faith are basically, they're kind of running this area, So you've got the farmhouse, and then you got these areas that's kind of surrounding where people like are keeping guard, so that way no one comes in and tries to like steal their supplies and all this different stuff. So you have like this, the heroine, she's known him since they were like teenagers. She was a younger girl, he was a teenager when he came to the farm. And so they've been kind of like living with each other and kind of growing up together. And so at first you're like, okay, they really don't care for one another, but all of a sudden they start like getting intimate with each other, and that intimacy turns into more. So it was definitely an interesting story. I really liked it. That's why I ended up giving it 5 stars, because it was just a really, you see like these characters who, they definitely had some insecurity to them because, of not having that, the older generation to kind of like help with that, since her parents had passed away and all that stuff. So they really had no one to kind of go to and talk to about that sort of thing, about relationships and all this different stuff. And then learning to survive like during these times, it's like maybe you're not thinking about love and all that stuff because you're not sure if this person's gonna die on you, you know? So I liked it and I enjoyed that one. The second book, not so much. I did not like the second book. So I ended up reading Princess by the same author. And this is the same thing. It's like post-apocalyptic. This is an age gap one where the heroine is like 21 at the time and the hero is like in his 30s, around there. This one here, we have the characters. Oh crap, I didn't even write the characters down. I'll have to put them like right here. I can't remember the character names. But we have these characters where the heroine, she annoyed me. Like, they were in this bunker because her father was obviously some kind of scientist or something, you know, where he knew the asteroid was coming. Like, you know, they kind of had to prepare for it. So because he had some type of money, they went and created this bunker where how many people could go down below into the ground and survive for how long. So her, and it was basically, he was kind of like, I'd say kind of like a bodyguard. They all go down to this bunker and they're in the bunker for about 4 years. And in this time, you know, she's kind of like, she wants to be more than what, you know, more than like a, you know, rich girl that, you know, her father had all this money and stuff and created this bunker with other people. She wants to be more than that. She wants to show like her worth, you know, so she ends up like was working in this job down below where it's like you're kind of working the little area where people get coffee and all that stuff. So they have like this swimming area. They go swimming and different things like that. So it seemed like pretty nice for a bunker. I mean, honestly, I mean, can I go down there too? You know? So had this really nice bunker. And obviously the rich would be ended up in that bunker. All us poor schmucks would be dead. So, they end up going up to the surface and dealing with like the droves and different things like that, you know, having to defend themselves. And it just seemed like the more they were out of the bunker, the more she became more and more insecure about her and the bodyguard and their romance and all that stuff. The more she became insecure to me, and I just was like, I really got irritated with her character. Because I was like, girl, he already, like, I know he's more of a, what's the term? Silent, you know, type. He's more of the silent type. Doesn't express his feelings all that much. But it's like, he's already told you that he likes you. He's attracted to you, you know, and all that stuff. So to me, I was like, you're creating this divide between him because you're so insecure about yourself. So I really just did not like her, and I ultimately ended up giving the book 2 stars because she just really annoyed me. I got to the point where I was like skimming the book and could not wait to finish it because I was like not liking her character at all. He was fine, but her, she was just like, you know, she annoyed me. So the third book I ended up reading, I definitely would say this is probably more of a prequel to the series. So if you wanted to get into this series, I would say you should probably start off with this book first. Because this introduced us to like 3 characters that you see in Haven and in Princess. So I do feel like this is kind of a prequel to the series. So I ended up reading Last Night by the same author. So we have the characters with Travis and Lane. And they lived in this town. It was like a mountain town. Didn't have a ton of people in it. And of course the asteroid hit and, you know, they were trying to survive. And, you know, and they were okay for a little bit. But then, you know, things started happening. Droves started coming in. They came into their town and were like, you know, causing havoc. So they basically had to leave. They were trying to find something where they felt a little more secure in. So how many people left her town? Her grandfather ended up passing away, and then her grandmother ended up passing away. So she was basically by herself, and she's like, well, I might as well just leave this town since my grandmother, you know, is not here anymore. And so she ends up running into someone that she knew in her town, Travis. He's traveling around along the road. So she goes and, you know, they're very defensive because they don't know if this person's a friend or a foe. And so she's kind of like got her gun on him, and she's like, you know, you need to back away from my bike so I can leave. And he's like, hey, you know, I know you, you know, I helped fix up your car, you know, in the town we lived in. And she's like, yeah, I know you too, but I don't want anything to do with you because, you know, you could hurt me. So she ends up leaving, and she goes to this area, and then he ends up coming along. And so they decide, okay, you know what? Let's help each other because we're going to die if we do this alone. So they start helping each other, and, you know, basically like they'd sleep in shifts where he'd sleep for a little bit. She would go and be on guard, and then she'd go and get some sleep and he'd be on guard. And they were doing that for a little while, and it got to the point where they got to this area, and she was like, the more she was around him, the more she was like falling for him and like being attracted to him. So they start getting into a sexual relationship. And so this one here, I definitely felt that the character, what's her name again? Lane, definitely felt Lane was definitely insecure. I mean, she had some insecurity to her because she's lost people. So one thing is she's very leery about falling for somebody that she could lose because she's lost her parents when she was a kid. Then she loses her grandparents. She was dating this really nice boy in town, and he ended up getting shot and he got killed. So she's lost a lot of people. You know, she's very like leery about falling for somebody. And with the character of Travis was married. His wife ended up ex-wife ended up leaving the town. And you come to find out there is a warning in here. I put a content warning in here for talk of child death. He had a child that had passed away. So, he's dealing with the loss and the grief of his child that he had to watch die because of obviously the ash and all the stuff that was in the air that caused her to get sick. And so you have these two, I'd say, damaged people that are afraid to develop feelings for each other because of the world the way it is. It was basically the same thing with the other characters, but I definitely felt it in this one. Maybe because it was like the starting of this apocalypse story that I definitely felt the insecurity of the characters and their, you know, of not knowing like how to be in a relationship, knowing that there's a possibility that something might happen to them. But I thought it was really sweet, even though it was like, you know, post-apocalyptic and you don't know how, you know, the world's gonna be and how people are gonna treat you, the people that you run into, everybody's so defensive. But I thought it was really sweet because they developed these feelings for one another. It's like, you know, you look at this person, you would have never thought you would have fell for them, but you've ended up falling for them, you know. And he was just a sweetheart because he clearly had feelings for her, but he didn't know how to say it until toward the end, you know, closer to the end of the book, where he was like, you know, telling her how he was feeling and all that stuff. So I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really sweet, and I did give that book 5 stars because I did enjoy it. But I do feel like that if you're going to delve into this series, you start with Last Light. You're going to start with Last Light first, then delve into Haven, and then Princess. And then I think the third book in the series, which I'd say technically fourth, that one, I think it's called Embers. I think that's another age gap romance. But yeah, I really enjoyed, for the most part, this series here. I mean, 2 out of 3 books I liked. So it was that other book, that Princess, I just really didn't care about. I don't know. She bugged me, where the other character of Lane didn't bug me in that way. And I really liked the character of Faith. I thought she was really, I liked her a lot. She was very self-sufficient, you know. She was really cool. I liked her character a lot. But yeah, that's what I've read so far. I did DNF a book, and I DNF'd it because it just, you know, as per usual, didn't work for me. I didn't like it, so I was like, no, that's not working for me, so I'm gonna move on. So right now, I'm at the point where I'm trying to stay off my Kindle. I'm trying to get through more of my physical copies I have. So next week, I will probably talk about some physical copies. Hopefully I can get through some of them and we will see what happens. So yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. Be safe out there. And I will see you all on the next video. All right. Bye.